Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Until My Watch is Over. This is a podcast where we talk about the devastating truths that dementia is a killer. The reason I say that, it's because it's the sixth top killing disease in our nation. I don't know how many people are aware of how many people get dementia every single year. The numbers seem to be climbing, and we notice the symptoms more and more every single day. In fact, every year, it's about 246,000 people are diagnosed with dementia. That's a lot of people. And so that's why it's the sixth top killing disease in our nation. And I want to talk about a couple of things today. Just want to bring a few things to the table. So I talk with a lot of people about dementia because I have been dealing with dementia and taking care of people with dementia for probably 20 plus years. And recently, as a lot of you know, have been taking care of my grandmother, who was 95 and had full dementia and went through every single phase of dementia. And so from start to end, I was able to experience everything, all the ins and outs, the ups and downs, and the needs and the whatnots. So this episode, I want to talk about something specific. And what I've noticed is a lot of people ask me this one question. And the question is, when will my loved one or whoever it is that you're taking care of, when will they start having incontinence issues? Or when will they forget who I am? Or when will they no longer be able to bathe themselves? Or when will they be able to, or not be able to, I should say, not be able to do X, Y, and Z? I want to emphasize to you and explain that each individual person, no matter what type of dementia they are diagnosed with, is going to depend on them as an individual. There is no answer to that question. But what I can share with you are the stages of dementia so you have a little bit of a better idea. Now, I've talked about the stages of dementia before in past episodes, but this time I want to talk about why it is that we cannot say, okay, in the next month, my loved one is no longer going to be able to do this. They're not going to be able to feed themselves. They're not going to be able to get themselves up. They're not going to be able to bathe themselves. They're not going to be able to change their clothes. They're going to be dependent on diapers, so to speak. Or when do I stop allowing them to give themselves their own medication? When do I have to give it to them? At what point will I ever have to feed them? What are the steps? There are steps, but again, I need to emphasize each person is individualized. So it's not something that you can say, okay, in 3 weeks, your loved one is no longer going to be able to hold a spoon and be able to put food to their mouth. You're going to have to do it for them. Or they're not going to be able to use a spoon, but they can still use their hands to eat with. And sometimes people don't want to hear that. They don't want to think of their loved one as eating with their fingers. But as long as they're still being independent, you need to let them eat with their fingers. And there are certain things that I think that as caregivers, because we love the people that we're taking care of and we want to help them so much, sometimes when we help them, we take away some of their independence. So it's really important that you understand that as they're going through these stages, you're going to notice different declines in their abilities to do things. So let's talk about these stages. So there's 7 stages that everyone really talks about. There's the early, the middle, and the late stages. And they're broken down into like 7 specific stages. So the first stage is basically there's no cognitive decline. They're still operating, functioning, everything on their own. They're not needing help. There's no noticeable symptoms of any memory patterns. Okay. That's stage 1. Okay. I always often wondered why they call that a stage, but it is a stage. Um, I think it's interesting that they put that in there as stage 1, but because to me, a stage is when something starts to change. But they haven't changed, so that's That's the beginning, okay? Then you go into stage 2. So stages 1, 2, and 3 are the early stages. Stage 2 is a mild, very mild cognitive decline. So they're having a little bit of subtle memory losses, so to speak. Sometimes it's not even detected at that point. Stage 2, sometimes you don't even detect that there's an issue or a problem or that they should go get checked for dementia. As we all know and get older, we all forget things. I forget things all the time. I'll walk into a room and not know why. Walk back out, walk back in, walk back out, walk back in. It can be really monotonous. It's like, why am I doing this? Why do I keep forgetting? Does that mean I have dementia? Not necessarily. It just means I'm getting older and I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. That doesn't mean I have dementia. Not every time you forget something, you automatically jump to the conclusion that, hey, I have some type of dementia. But it's okay to go get checked for that. There's lots of things that you can do to get checked for um, the types of dementia that there are. And we're not going to talk about the different types of dementia today because for the reason being that there's a lot to each type, but these stages seem to correlate with every single type of dementia that's out there. That's why it's under the information of dementia, not specifically under Alzheimer's or Lewy body or, those specific types of dementia. So number 2, stage 2, it's just very mild, very little bit of memory loss. Okay. Then you go into step 3. We're still mild. Okay. But now we're not very mild. We're just mild. Um, we have some increased forgetfulness. Okay. Slight concentration problems, not being able to concentrate on daily tasks and not being able to concentrate on what the routine is or the schedule is that normally goes to a person's life. What are they normally doing each day? What's normal for them? If it starts to look like it's becoming out of the normal, then that's where you see the mild cognitive decline happen. They're going to forget what they're doing more often, okay? And they have trouble concentrating, like what am I doing? What am I doing? They just stop and they ponder. I don't really know what I'm doing right now. Why am I here? And it's real subtle still. The first stages are really early on, okay? And so you don't want to like freak out about it. We can. I mean, I could freak out about it with myself because I forget, like I say, um, a lot. So could I have dementia? I possibly could have dementia. Um, but I don't freak out about it yet because I still remember what I'm doing. I still can focus. I still can follow my routine. I still know that, I can plan out my day and I can fulfill that plan for the day. Does that mean I'm going to forget where I put my keys sometimes or even my glasses sometimes? Um, no, that doesn't mean that. That just means that as long as I'm following my routine and I'm able to take care of myself by myself without any additional help, I'm still okay. So those are the first early stages of 1, 2, and 3. They're just early stages. Now we get to the middle stages 4 and 5. So stage 4 is a moderate cognitive decline. Okay. It's a little bit more than mild. So um, it's a clear-cut memory loss. You're really recognizing that they cannot remember stuff at all. And it's becoming more normal for them to forget than to remember. Okay. So an example, if I forget my keys occasionally, that's okay. But if I can never remember where I put my keys, or I can never remember where I set my soda down and I can't find it anywhere, or I can't find my glasses, or I can't find my purse, or I can't find um, just specific things, okay? Then you're going to notice that the tasks become a little bit more complex for them to handle. They're not able to do things because they're constantly stopping and trying to figure out what it is they're doing. You're going to see a lot more pauses, a lot more confusion, okay? Then we have stage 5, which is moderately severe cognitive decline. This is where assistance needs to apply, where we need to start helping out, where they need um, someone to give them guidance and with everything. Basically, all daily activities, whatever it is. Could be getting out of bed, could be taking a shower. This is the stage where sometimes they forget, hey, I haven't showered in 2 or 3 days. Okay. This is the stage where they don't change their clothes, maybe. They forget to put their hearing aids in because they don't even realize they're wearing them anymore. Or their glasses. They won't wear their glasses because they don't even think they wear glasses anymore. I actually went through a phase, this actual phase with my grandmother, and she would say, I don't wear glasses. I don't wear glasses at all. And she had like 10 pairs of glasses all around the house. We'd have them all around the house because she would lose them um, very often. So this is a point where they need a lot of assistance. And you just need to assist them. We don't want to like degrade them or take away the independence or make them feel bad for losing their memory. We just want to give them assistance. We want to help them out. Be like, oh, they're over here. Or, oh, hey, how about we take a shower today? And they may um, become a little argumentative and be in denial. So they may be, I don't want to take a shower today. I took one. I just took one yesterday. Or I already took one today. Friendly reminders are okay. Encouraging them. And sometimes taking a pause. If they say no, take a pause, come back, and reword what you're saying to try to encourage them to take a shower. Sometimes that doesn't work, sometimes it does. You will figure out what you need to do with your loved one while you're assisting them to get them to be able to function throughout their daily tasks, if that kind of makes any sense. Then we have stage 6. Okay. Um, Stage 6 is a severe cognitive decline. Okay. They're having really, really bad memory loss issues. They can't remember most stuff. So let's say if 5 is moderate severe cognitive decline, they probably have lost probably 50% of their ability to function in activities and remember how to do things. Think of cognitive decline on a severe level of being like if you want to put it into percentage perspective, like 80% of their memory is like just not there. Again, you can always remind them and encourage. Now, one thing that I learned and I made the mistake of, so I don't mind sharing this because it is really important not to do this. If your loved one says um, something again and again and again, and you say to them, well, I just told you, or I already said, um, we've had this conversation. Those are things that you don't want to say. Okay. And it can be hard to catch yourself doing this because I would do this with my mother and even my grandmother. So my mother also had dementia, but she made it to the middle stages of dementia. And I never realized how frustrating it had to be for her to me constantly saying, well, I just told you. Well, I don't know where my water is. Well, I just told you where it's at. No, just say, it's over here. Here, let me show you. Or here, let me give it to you. Instead of, well, I just told you. Telling them that honestly is degrading for them. And I had to learn this because I would do this, not knowing, not realizing that it has an effect on them. And it really does put them down. And we don't want to put our loved ones down. We're supposed to be assisting and helping, not degrading. So we need to be very careful when we're taking care of a loved one because it can get frustrating when it becomes a repetitious habit that they forget and they want, you to do things for them. And you think, well, you could do this for yourself. No, they cannot, not any longer because they have forgotten how to do it. So try not to get frustrated when you're dealing with people with dementia, um, when you're seeing them as they go through these different levels. Now, I've had people say, well, um, how long are they going to keep doing this? There is no time. I can't put a time limit on how long a person is going to stay in that stage. They say the stages of from start to finish can be 8 to 10 years. It could be 2 years. Some it goes really quickly, and some it's long. Okay. My grandma probably had dementia probably at least 10 years from start to finish. And going through all of these stages and looking back on from where we noticed it when when we started working with it to the very end. It was about 10 years. Okay. So you cannot put a time or, oh, she's only going to do this for a week. No, she's going to do it for the rest of her life, or he's going to do it for the rest of his life, because it's not going to come back as much as we want it to come back, because we're used to seeing our loved ones. They're the ones teaching us what to do, telling us how to do things. And they're our loved one that has helped raise us or taken care of us or been by our side. If it's your spouse, you're used to them doing specific things on their own, and now they no longer can. And then you think to yourself, well, when are they going to start doing it again? They're not. This is what dementia is. It comes and it steals away your memory, and it doesn't give it back. As much as we want it to be given back to them, it doesn't come back to them. So we really need to be mindful, and we need to be um, respectful to what they're going through. Because sometimes we think, as hard as it is for us to deal with them losing their memory and how frustrating it can be, that we don't want to cause more damage to the situation. We don't want to cause hurt and pain. And I know with my mom, one time my mom said to me, um, when I had said, well, I just told you that. I remember one time I said, I just told you that. And she said, well, I don't remember that you told me that. And it was helpful that she told me that, because she doesn't remember that I told her or remembered what we were even talking about to begin with. She doesn't remember any of it. And yet I was expecting her to remember it. So we need to be really careful in how we handle the situation. There are ways to change, to flip what we say to someone, to not put them down or to steal their independence or to make them feel less. They already feel bad enough. It's already hard enough for them. And sometimes we think, well, it's hard on us too. Okay, but we need to think about them. If you want to step into a position where you're a caregiver or you're taking care of a loved one, and you feel like that's your place, you're obligated to do that. You need to remember what they're going through. And it's okay to remember what you're going through. I'm not talking about not taking care of yourself. We're not talking about self-care here. We're talking about taking care of the person that has the dementia. Okay, so I'm not trying to beat you up or anything, but we got to be careful with that. And like I said, I learned that, and it was hard. It was really hard. Sometimes my mom would get into heated conversations with me, and I would let it go on and on and on, not realizing what I was even doing. And some people are like, why you talk to your mom like that? Or why are why? And I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize I was doing that, because it can get frustrating. Me and my mom didn't have a real good relationship. And so it was really hard taking care of her. She was really stubborn. She was mean. She would say horrible, horrible things. And some days I just couldn't put up with it. I didn't know how to handle it. And so I wasn't always the nicest caregiver, but I learned how to be. I had to teach myself that it's not their fault. It's not their fault. So stop beating them up over it. Okay. So when we're talking about stage 6, what I noticed about stage 6, and I want to just really talk about this a lot, because when I was taking care of my grandmother, I kept thinking, she's in stage 5. No, she's in stage 6. No, she's in stage 7. No, she's in stage 5 again. Because she didn't just stick in one stage and just stay there. And it's just wait for that decline to happen. Sometimes she'd bounce back. Sometimes she'd have really good days. Sometimes we could sit at the table and she could eat with her silverware. Other days, she didn't know how to use a spoon. Some days, she could pick up her coffee cup and drink her juice. And other days, she's pouring it on top of her food or dumping her food into her juice because she doesn't know what she's doing. And I remember I would be just like confused at times when I'd watch her do these things, but I didn't get mad at her. Sometimes people would say, well, why are you letting her do that? She could do whatever she wants to do. Let her be. If she wants to do that, let her do it. Now, if it's going to hurt her or harm her, Then obviously, of course, you want to protect her and keep her safe. You want to keep her well. If it's going to make her sick, if it's going to, so what if she makes a mess? Messes can be cleaned up. I've cleaned up hundreds of messes that my grandma made. Okay. And so we have to really remember that not only are they forgetting how to function, they're also losing their personality. They're not even the same person anymore in their mind. And sometimes you want to have a conversation with them. And and I used to always reminisce with my grandmother. I would be like, Grandma, do you remember this? And she'd look at me like, I have no clue. And sometimes I would just talk to her about it anyway and just kind of remind her. And or I'd show her pictures or just because we need that. They don't necessarily need that. We need it. So you got to be careful when you're doing that as well. It's hard on them to make them sit and make them think about something they have no memory of. They don't remember any of that. So, but sometimes my grandma would say stuff and I'd be like, oh, she remembers today. So I would engage in conversation. But if she didn't remember, if I would say something to her and she had no memory of it, I just let it go. I didn't just keep pushing and pushing and pushing to have that conversation with her. I understand that that part of her personality, that characteristic is no longer there. She is no longer capable of having those conversations. There would be times that my grandma would sit at the table and just stare at the table and just look at it. And I remember thinking, what is she doing? Why is she just staring at the table? Sometimes I would go over and try to get her to do stuff because she likes to read, she likes to write, and she likes to do things, and so it kind of stimulates her mind and her small motor skills, like her hands and stuff. And I'd be like, okay, so one thing I came up with her is I wrote words down on 3x5 cards. Sorry about that. 3x5 cards and cut them in half so there'd be matching words like memory, the memory game. We all played it as kids, right? And I thought, well, let's just see, because she likes words. She used to be a teacher, or a tutor for 13 years. She taught kids. And I thought, let's see what she does. It worked for a long time. She loved it. She would put all these cards out all over the table. And sometimes she'd say, come over here and do your lesson. And I would go over there and I'd do my lesson with her. Because you know why? It made her feel important. It made her feel valuable, made her feel useful. And whether I wanted to do it or not, I would do it anyway because I got to see her interact instead of just sitting there staring at the table or staring at her food or staring. Sometimes she'd just stare at a book. And I remember thinking to myself one time, because she loved to read, she had tons of books. We'd always buy her new books. I'd give her a book. She would read it like 100 times. Why? Because she doesn't remember that she read it to begin with. And once in a while, I'd ask her, how's your book, Grandma? Oh, it's so good. It is so good, she'd say. And I'd say, okay. And sometimes I would ask her if she could tell me about the book. And she's like, well, I just started reading it, so I don't know yet. And that's okay because she doesn't remember. And so I just leave it at that. I don't try to get her to remember what she read because she doesn't remember what she read at this stage. She literally does not know. Sometimes at this stage, um, actually even in stage 5, she may not even know who you are. And that's a real tough pill to swallow. I'm going to say this. My grandma called me so many different people's names, and I didn't mind. It didn't bother me. And I would just be like, oh, hi, whatever, and talk to her, as if I was the person that she thought I was. Sometimes I was her sister. Sometimes I was her daughter-in-law. Sometimes I was her mother. Sometimes I was the nurse. Sometimes I was myself. So I was all of these different characters in her life because for some reason, whatever's going on in her mind, when I'm interacting with her, the person or the thought that comes into her mind, she places it on you because she thinks you're that person. And that's okay. You just got to go with the flow. Just go with the flow. Make the best of it. Don't get frustrated. And I'm telling you, yes, sometimes your feelings get hurt when your loved one says, who are you? Why are you here? I don't know you. Don't let them see that that's affecting you because they don't understand why it's affecting you. If you need to go in the other room, have a good cry, grab a pillow, scream in it, be like, it's okay. That is totally okay, by the way. We talk about self-care for caregivers in another episode, but for this episode, let's just stick to these stages. So in stage 6 is when I notice the most of stuff happening. And with home health that I had here, I would ask the nurse that would come out, is she in stage 7 yet? Nope, not yet. Do you think she's getting close? No, yes, no, yes, no. And it would be kind of wavering. Okay. And that's what dementia is. You can't just go, oh, today's stage 6. Oh, now she's in stage 7. Oh, no, she's back to stage 6. I mean, they kind of all go together. Fortunately, obviously stage 7 and stage 1 are not, but stage 6 and 7, yes. Stage 5 and 6, yes. You're going to see some of the symptoms to these stages, kind of bounce back and forth a little bit. Um, I used to always say, my grandma always bounces back, and she did. When she broke her hip, we thought for sure she wasn't going to be with us very much longer, and she lived over a year. And a couple months after her hip, I was positive she was in stage 7, and I asked the nurse, is she in stage 7? And she said, no, she's still eating. She's still eating. She's still drinking water. Okay. That helped me. Okay. So those are some things I need to look for specifically for stage 7. No longer eating, no longer wanting to drink. Okay. The incontinence, she was already there, stage 7. No longer able to, you know, take care of herself. She couldn't bathe herself, couldn't clean herself, couldn't change, herself, or, you literally had to do all of that for her at this stage. Now, when you get into stage 7, I will say stage 7 for me lasted about 6 weeks. And this is when they start losing the verbal abilities. They're total dependent on you. Every single thing. You're now feeding them. You're now putting the water in their mouth. You're now doing everything. You're lifting up their head. You're moving them. You're shifting them. They're to change their diaper. Everything. Sometimes they're bedridden at this point. My grandma did pretty good. The last 6 weeks of her life, she became bedridden about, I want to say, 4 weeks. 4 weeks into her hospice care. And again, stage 7 is also where, hospice will come in. And you want them to come in. Please do not think that you can do this alone. And maybe you can. For myself, I could not. I needed hospice, not just for the care of my grandmother, but for my sanity. I needed it because I wanted to make sure I was doing everything right. I wanted to make sure I was taking care of her needs the way they needed to be taken care of. Because every person in this stage, their needs are not going to be exactly the same. They're going to be different based on the individual that you're caring for. That's why we can't answer those questions. When is this going to happen? When is that going to happen? We can't answer that because it's based on them, not on what we think should or shouldn't happen or when it should and should happen. Does that make sense? I hope. So in the 7th stage, they're 100% dependent on you. And then this gets to the point where um, you're checking with them, you're sitting with them, you're staying with them more regularly, like almost around the clock. The last week of my grandma's life, I stayed with her almost 24/7. I slept in her room. I was with her. The only time I left her side was to try to get something to eat or to try to get her something to drink or eat or to use the restroom or jump in the shower real quick. Um, I did not want to leave her side because I really felt like that last week that I had with her, she was going to pass away, and I didn't want her to be alone. And for me, I was like, I just didn't want to have her do that. Now, I will tell you this: sometimes um, there's an awareness that they have in passing away. Sometimes they will wait for you to leave to pass away because they don't think that you should be there when they pass away because they don't want it to cause more pain for you. Okay. For my grandmother, I asked her not to do that, but if she did do it, I wouldn't have been mad. I just would have been like, oh gosh, I wasn't there. Again, I would have felt like, what could I have done better? But we all think that when we're taking care of our loved one, we all think there's something more we can do. I stayed with her all the way up until the moment that she passed away. Matter of fact, she passed away in my actual hands. And I'm not going to get into all of that because it's very, disturbing, but it happens. She stopped eating. She stopped drinking. Her body started shutting down. She was no longer needing diaper changes. She was on a catheter. I was measuring her output every single day, and it just got less and less and less because she wasn't putting in. You can't get out what you don't put in. Like, we know this. Okay, this is how the body works, fortunately, right? So, um, towards the last days of her life, she just, was withering away. She got really, really skinny and what have you. And so, I just want to say that when you're looking at dementia and you're experiencing it, if they're in the early stages, don't jump clear to stage 5, 6, and 7 and think that that's where they're at. Learn the stages and then just not try to categorize them into a stage. Because I tried to do that. It doesn't work. They'll bounce back and forth. Even with stages 1 through 3. Some days they're going to seem like they're perfectly normal. Other days they're going to be so confused they have no idea. Sometimes my grandma would sit on the couch and have full conversations, talk about the movie, she would remember her loved ones. We'd talk about her kids, her husband. My grandma was married 70 years, so we would talk about that. We talk about things that we did. We had lots of great conversations in the first 3 stages. Okay. 4 and 5, the conversations were a little bit less because she didn't remember as much. And that was okay. And then when you get into 6 and 7, they really don't have an ability to remember. They're barely just trying to function, physically function. And even that is hard for them. Okay. They cannot do it. You have to be there to assist them and to help them. That's what that's what we do as caregivers. And that's what we're supposed to be doing if that's what we decided to do, if we want to take this on. So I hope that this explains a little bit, especially to those that keep asking, well, when is this going to happen? When is that going to happen? When are these symptoms going to arise? When is he or she going to do this? You really can't answer those questions. Nobody can answer those questions for you. But you can learn the 7 stages and get familiarized with them so you kind of know what's coming. And if they stay in that stage for a long period of time, then you can go, yeah, I think they're in stage 5. I think we've been here for a moment. We've stayed here for a moment. We've leveled out in this stage. There hasn't been any, back and forth for a while. I think we are. And then you'll see them start slowly going into the next stage and then to the next stage. And if you're not sure, if you have an in-home caregiver or a doctor or someone that's assisting you, ask for medical advice. Ask them, what stage do you think they're in? Where do you think we're at? What do I need to do to be prepared for the next phase? And my suggestion to you is get prepared mentally, get prepared physically. That means get your rest while you can. Give yourself the breaks that you need. Because when you get down to that last 4 weeks, it's okay to ask for help. Especially, I asked my hospice team, they were coming out every single day. Sometimes they would stay for a couple of hours and they would just help me. And they're wonderful, wonderful. I can't express this enough. I do not know. Well, actually, I do know. I know, let me rephrase this. I know I probably would not have made it through the last week if it had not been for them. And the one thing that they were so gracious and kind about is they kept asking me how I was doing. And I was like, oh, I'm fine. Let's just focus on her. No, no, no. How are you doing? Oh, I'm good. How much sleep did you get last night? Well, okay, you need to get some rest. Who can step in so you can sleep? Are you eating? Are you drinking fluids? And it's almost like when you're the caregiver and you're taking care of your loved one and you're on hospice, you become a patient too if you have a really good hospice team. They'll start asking you questions. I had the best hospice team. They just cared so much um, about my grandmother and about me and about my family in the home. They asked how everyone was handling as my grandma was declining. How is this going? Are you guys okay? Do you want me to have the chaplain come over more often? Do you need the social worker? Do you need this? Do you need that? Do you need grief counseling? Even before she passed, do you need grief counseling? And so if you have a really good hospice team, it's going to help you. If you're afraid to get on hospice, don't be. Get on it. Use it. Most insurances, I believe all insurances cover hospice, so do it. Save yourself the agony and the exhaustion, the frustration, all of it. Save yourself by that when you get into that last stage. Okay. And I'm not saying any of this to scare you. So if you're in stages 1 through 3, this is not a conversation to bring fear or worry. Just get yourself familiarized. Go in it, look it up, research it, what the symptoms are, what the next stage is, what the next stage, what happens during this stage. If you need to break it down more, there's more information where you could break it down even further. When should my loved one stop driving? When should my loved one not give themselves medication? When should my loved one um, stop eating solid foods? Sometimes they become where they can't swallow and they have to have liquids only. There's things that happen as the decline happens because they don't know how to swallow. They don't know what to do with the pills. They'll give them to the dog. My grandma tried to feed her pills to the dog, and I was like, okay, we're done with the pills. We're done. Okay, enough of that from now on. And there were times that I would give her the pills in her mouth, and she would try to fight me because she didn't want me to put the pills in her mouth. She wanted to do it, but she couldn't even take the pills in her hand and put it to her mouth. And so I would just say, "Oh, it's okay, Grandma. Just let me help you." And I didn't get mad. I didn't get frustrated. I didn't do that. Same with my mother. My mom, I had to give her medication morning and night. I had her pills all planned out and everything. It got to the point where she didn't help fill her pill box anymore. I just did it by myself. She didn't go get her pills in the morning. I brought them to her. I brought her drink and I gave her pills. So these are stages that you're going to go through, and it's okay. But be prepared, okay? And just know that if you go to ask the question, well, when is this going to happen? Or when is that going to happen? There's no real indefinite answer, but you can get familiarized with these stages. And so I hope with this episode, that this has been helpful in some way. And thank you for allowing me to share. And thank you for always being present. And I appreciate everyone that comes onto this podcast and watches. And if you know someone that is dealing with dementia, whether no matter what stage they're in, just send this, share it, like it, follow along, and stay tuned because not only are we going to be talking about stages, we're going to be talking about different types of dementia. We're going to talk about equipment. We're going to talk about supplies that work and don't work. And I'm going to have guests that come on that are going to share what they've learned, their experience that they've had, where they're at in their walk with dementia, as you could call it, um, or what stage they're in. However you want to look at it or word it, we will have all kinds of information that you can come to these episodes and find and get. And so I'm hoping that this is helpful for you. If it is, please let me know. Follow along. If you want to be on an episode and you want to talk about your loved one, and you want to talk about what's working, what's not working, or you want to talk about pretty much anything you could talk about, as long as we remember that we need to remember to keep dignity and respect for the person that we're caring for. And there's times that I mean, I have stories I can share, and I will share, and I do share, if you haven't already heard some of them, that some of the things that I highlight about my grandmother along the way, because we've had some really, really good days. And then we've had some not so good days where there's days they just don't feel good. There's days they're agitated, they're frustrated, they don't even want you to be near them. And yet you need to go in and you have to give them a diaper change, or you need to help them eat because they can't hold the cup anymore and they don't want you to help them anymore. And that's frustrating for both of you. But just remember, it's even more frustrating for them because they can't remember how to even give themselves a drink of water. Just imagine how frustrating that would be. So remember to always be kind and loving. And let's remember that we want to give them their independence, and we want to be mindful about how we approach and handle every circumstance that comes our way with any of the stages that we're dealing with. So I just want to say thank you all for being here. This has been another great episode of Until My Watch is Over. I hope you all have a great day. And until next time, I'll see you later. Take care.